I think the reason why, okay, I think the reason why hats are associated with Englishness is because of the British royal family who've kept hats alive in the imagination of people all over the world. So when people think of hats, they think of Her Majesty the Queen.
And through centuries, though, I mean, there are other royal families, though. Why
Of course,
Britain?
well, I mean, every culture has a history of hat and headdress, but Englishness has a history with hats because, there's an inbuilt understanding of eccentricity in this country that is perceived in a completely different way in other countries. When an international magazine phones up and asks for an eccentric hat, I understand they mean a crazy hat, but the English customer doesn't really see eccentric in the same way. They see eccentric as, eccentric is a very subtle commodity, and I have very unusual clients like Lady Gaga and Grace Jones and other entertainers, but really my customers are highly conservative English dressers who think my hats are completely normal. So I like that aspect of Englishness because they have an inbuilt radar for something slightly extra in a hat.
And speaking to from a perspective of a woman who doesn't have high cheekbones and who's not particularly tall,
Yes,
are there rules that people go by?
there are rules attached to hat wearing, but I don't particularly believe in rules, and I think hats are about marrying the personality of the wearer to to the hat. And the purpose of a hat is to make the wearer look better. So, uh, geometrically or scientifically, hat wearing is it's it's a cheaper form of cosmetic surgery because it completely transforms the proportions of the face, and the wearer is more confident and feels good in a hat. Otherwise, the hat really hasn't worked. So when somebody comes to the studio to have a hat made, it's a little bit like visiting a psychiatrist because you very subtly ask them where they're going to wear the hat, if they like hats, um, and what the occasion is. And then you really combine all that information into hopefully giving them the perfect hat and helping the customer to dare a slight percentage further.
What have been your favorite hats so far that you've made?
Your favourite hat is always the next hat you're going to make because every hat you make is a challenge. And once you've made the hat, you sort of move on to the next hat in a way. And I have an opportunity. I've been making hats for 20 years in this country. I'm Irish, and I've been able to observe this sort of fantasticness of kind of English dressing from the outside, from the inside out through what I do. And I think that I've lost what I'm saying. ask, ask that in another way.
What hat are you going to make next?
The hat I'm going to make, well, at the moment we're very busy making hats for the royal wedding, and they're very exciting hats to make because hats and royal weddings are um, one and the same. They're both about magic and happiness and a sense of celebration. And the biggest hat moments in the world have always been during times of strife. And the last big hat moment was during the wars, and when women had to be really inventive about what their hat was made in. And some of the most exciting hats were made and worn then because a hat sort of encapsulates the sort of sense of a sort of it's in the French call it joie de vivre, and here I suppose it would be called let's have some fun. So hats are about spectacle and about tradition and about making the woman look attractive and a sense of occasion, and there's no bigger sense of occasion than a royal wedding.
And are there things that you should do and you shouldn't do in terms of hat wearing at a royal wedding?
I'm sure there are, but I believe in combining the personality of the wearer with the hat. So there are lots of different types of personality. So some customers may like something very simple, and some customers like something very extravagant. It sort of defies fashion to make a, for people generally to have a type of hat, because that defies the meaning of a hat. Because a hat, no woman comes and buys a hat and says, I want to look like somebody else. Everybody wants to express their individuality in their own way. So every hat is completely different, and every person is completely different. And fashion today is, the power is no longer with the designer, the power is with the consumer. So it's even a more exciting period for hats, because you can inject your own personality into your hat in some small way, maybe a colour or some piece of excitement with the hat, or how you wear it.
So, for example, the royal wedding,
Yes.
how does it work when do people phone you and say, this is kind of the idea that I have in mind, can you help me, can you design something?
Well, for weddings in general, the customer will come with a sketch of what they're wearing, and then they will come with the outfit, or with swatches, or with choices of accessories, and it's a sort of it's a combined effort between the designer of the clothing and the accessories the customer finds, and then you really kind of pull it all together with a hat and make the outfit live, really, because a hat has the possibility to do that. I think because, the most interesting thing and the most obvious thing with a hat, when you meet somebody, you meet their face. You don't meet their thigh or their leg or their bracelet or their shoes. So it's the most potent part of the body to embellish, and it's the contact point when you look at somebody or meet somebody. It's the first thing you look at, and hats and headdress have been part of every culture all over the world since the beginning of time, and sometimes people forget that every culture has a history of hat and headdress. So there's no one type of person that just wears hats. Everybody can wear hats, because everybody did wear hats at one time.
And is a white hat a no-no for weddings?
It depends, and I think people really shy away from wearing a white hat to a wedding. But it could be a very small white hat, and it could be with an outfit that works with a white hat. But usually people don't really wear white to weddings.
And do you mind talking about how many approximately hats you're doing for a wedding?
I can make it sound like pizzas, because we're just, it develops every day, but I think you'll see them.
And can you talk a little bit about how important an event like this is for designers?
Well, when people talk about dressing up, they often say, if only I had the occasion to wear something incredible. And for a royal wedding such as this, people are dressing up. I mean, in the past few weeks, I've been working with some of the most incredible clothes from some of the most extraordinary designers in the world, from Valentino to Giorgio Armani to Chanel, Bruce Oldfield, Alexander McQueen. So it's a penultimate dressing up moment for all of the guests, and everybody puts a lot of care and attention when they go out in the evening. But when it's a royal wedding, people put a lot of work into what they're wearing. And that's very good for fashion, and that's what keeps fashion alive. So it will be a sort of fashion moment for all designers who design clothing or accessories or help women to look good, hairdressers, makeup artists. It's a it's a penultimate dress-up moment.
Your hats are no doubt extraordinary and extraordinarily creative. But what makes you different than other hat makers? Are you?
I like to I like to make hats that that make the wearer that make the observer and the wearer um, that give it another dimension, because hats have can be interpreted as an old-fashioned accessory, but there's nothing old-fashioned about a hat. It just depends how it's perceived, and I have an opportunity to influence how people all over the world see hats in the 21st century, and that's a very, very exciting position to be in. I make hats because I love hats, and I believe in the future of the hat, and the future of the hat is with the growing confidence of the consumer. Designers no longer say, the color of the season is this, or this is the cut of the season, because today the choice is with the individual, and hats are about an individual confidence. And what many people mistake is that people gain their confidence from wearing a hat. When you feel you look fantastic in something, then you feel great. It's a whole psychology of dressing.
Where do hats go from here?
I think it could be interesting how people express their individuality in the future. And people always say, I don't really see people wearing hats. Well, sometimes people don't really see what they're looking at, because, every kid in America has got a baseball cap on. That's a hat. Everybody that's on a bike or on a motorbike, they're wearing a hat. Every person in the military or the police, they're all wearing hats. Young kids are wearing knitted hats. They're all hats. So hats are very much there. They're not, cocktail hats. But then again, you don't see anybody walking around the street in an evening dress, but people wear evening dresses. So it depends on the function, and it depends on the moment and the occasion. But hats are alive and out there. It's just people don't really see them as such. And, we have because we make for entertainers, it's a more visual experience for the public, because they want to be seen. But we make hats for women that are going to the most important occasion in their life, maybe their child's wedding, and then we'll make the hat, we'll go through the whole process, and then we may never see the hat and the customer again. But with the royalty that I design for, be it British royalty or European royalty, they have more ultimate moments than everybody else, and hats are part of the tradition and the respect attached to royalty.
And how long does it take to make some of these hats?
It depends, it can take a few hours and it can take a few weeks. It depends on the complexity of the hat, and some customers want an original hat that's never been seen before, which means we will start from a wooden or a mock-up shape, have it made in wood, and then that will be the one individual hat for that customer. That's a very expensive process, but it depends. Some hats are easier to make than others.
And going back to the future of the hat, and this will be my last question.
That's okay.
The curator at the V&A hat exhibit had said that John F. Kennedy was credited with killing the hat politically for men.
Yes.
Do you see that ever changing at some point?
Yes, because if JF Kennedy had the power to kill the hat, then a hat lover may come into the world that has the power to bring the hat back, because we are so influenced today by popular culture more than any other time before, because the communication is so much stronger, be it the internet, magazines. I mean, there are hundreds of magazines now, and there are hundreds of bloggers, internet sites, so the communication is even stronger. So fashion is about entertainment and communication, and it's about business, and it's about beauty. But I personally believe that hat business is about promoting beauty and elegance, and that will always have a currency, because a hat is the ultimate glamour accessory, and People will always want to look glamorous, and especially at a royal wedding.
Just one more question, and I promise this is it. I looked at the old footage of Princess Di's wedding.
Yes.
Because obviously I
Yes.
was fairly young, not
I think I was
teenager,
12.
but fairly young. Most of the hats look fairly similar from what I saw in the footage.
Yes.
How do you think that this royal wedding will compare with the type of hats that we're going to see?
I don't know. All I can say is I know that we are making beautiful hats for the many guests to wear to the wedding, and I believe in hats that make the heart beat faster, and that's what we do. I work with some of the most prolific designers in the world. I work with some of the most extraordinary women in the world, and everybody wants to look fantastic and look their best, and I believe in that.
Thank you.
Okay.
You were literally fighting to get into these shows.
Yes.
Photographers were fighting physically. The PRs.
Because they made good pictures.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, hats make a great picture.
Did you ever see Chine's wooden chair?
Yes, yes,
That's on my wall at home.
yes.
I was there at Sadler's Wells, and the model stepped into this dresses,
Yes.
and you just walked. You just literally just.
It was a
went,
circular
Yeah.
table, and then to lift up a certain part, and then it just all kind of went up and whatever.
That was stunning. You just dropped dead and went.
Yes.
How do you even begin to think of that?
But you see now, there's a lot of fashion, and there's a lot of kind of clothes going up and down a runway. No, and so the girls look more interesting than the clothes. Really.
Sadly.
Sadly.
Yes.
So
With a bit of an edge, yes.
Yeah. And London does that brilliantly when it does it.
Yeah, when it does it, everyone's waiting for the next one to come along
Yes.
and produce. Well, it will happen.
Yes.
And you mentioned austerity and strife and things, and we now have. All right, we get political here, but I don't mean to
Yes.
get political. But out of Thatcherism came Tryon and McQueen. Out of Cameronism, you might get the next
Well,
one.
that is the question, whether
Because the art's being cut, and that produces
Yes.
a reaction.
And London does
Yeah.
that brilliantly
Yeah.
because, I started when London was, it has ups and downs. So then out of the blue something can happen.
What do you actually? We're writing another story about whether the austerity measures will be like.
These are tricky. And so, the best hat period ever was during the war, when people were so worn down by everything that they started to wear really good hats. So,
I do appreciate.
Just come back about. Just come back. Retouch.
Oops. Be careful.
Okay. Just to me.
What is cinema?
it's a fibre that's woven in the Philippines that everyone uses instead of straw. It's a kind of straw. It's kind of layered.
You pick up something and you display something like that. That'd be really nice. I mean, if you.
How do people in Ireland view hats as opposed to the UK?
They like them now, don't they, Tracy?
Just up to me.
They wear really good hats in Ireland.
Yeah.
The Irish are very supportive of other Irish people. But yeah, but it's better off if you're not there. They prefer it if you're actually elsewhere. Don't they, Tracy?
Yes.
Yeah?
But do you think that more
It
of the
just
Irish
sounds
are-
more exotic. I don't know why. It's if I was in Ireland, they wouldn't care less, would they, Tracy? But because I'm not.
Move that hand up, your right hand up. It's up there. You put it slightly, yes. As if you're putting on something like that. That's it. Yeah. That's straight to me.
You aim to this
I know, it's very self-conscious doing this, but it's...
It's not
I'm
natural.
just
Say.
about to...
Imagine. How many of the hats do you actually make now?
Well, you gotta get going now.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yes.
Let's see.
I think maybe we need to get a picture of her in her 6-inch heels and
Yes.
skin-tight black pants.
Yes. Okay.
Done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Done. That's absolutely...
So actually, on the day of the wedding, can I call you if I had a question on a certain hat after it's already done?
I will send the press release to everybody.
Okay.
So, as in, you know, the hats that we are making.
But he's not making the honeymoon hat.
But then you think it's our hat.
Okay.
Just send me a picture.
Okay.
And then I will tell you, yes it is, yes it's not. Because there are like people that nobody knows actually, but they're wearing beautiful hats.
Okay.
Like they're really going, they're putting a lot on their head. So I'm sure they will have a lot of press, but nobody knows their names. Or,
Okay.
I mean, 200. These ones are, yeah, around 200, less 200, 170, something like that.
You can take one up for your
No,
daughter.
no. Before she asks.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we will.
Will you have a show or you...
A show. We might do a show. And we will have definitely a collaboration. We are working on a collaboration with an English designer that shows in London.
Oh, great. That's good.
Yeah. Ischia, kind of Naples, we have something close to Naples, and then Bari, and then Milan, we have 4 stores, and then
Article said that the Japanese buy loads
Oh.
of hats.
so many.
Yes,
That's
which is,
the
yeah, well, the
number-
Japanese royals always wear hats, don't they? Yes, they always wear small little hats as well.
We sell, yeah, because they're tiny actually, we sell
Yeah.
more like this kind of hat, they love that.
Yeah.
We sold so many pairs.
That looks like a Yoko Ono sort of hat too. Didn't Yoko Ono wear things like that a lot?
It's UK out, online out. I cannot stop an
Thank you very
individual
much,
picture
George.
coming back, but
You
that's the
can
deal.
show the girls
That's the
downstairs.
deal.
Okay. Sorry?
I cannot stop an individual picture somehow making its way back to the
No,
camera.
there is nothing you can do
But
there.
there's nothing I can do, but I will try my best.
But is there any chance you can let me know where it will go?
It will go
Is
around the
there
world.
anybody-
It will go around the world.
I can send you the story as soon as
It's because it's a subscribed service. 15,000 outlets around the world.
Yes.
I'll be
we'll have a pretty good idea of where it runs after.
hard as I can go. I'm not trying to be obtuse or
I
difficult.
got it.
I'm trying to be as user-friendly as possible. Honest, I think is the word, yes.
That's why I wasn't gonna say 100% guarantee that I could.
Yes.
I love that purse. It's fantastic.
Yeah. That's it. We have the couture is made in Italy, so that one is couture.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Very Egyptian, though, they are. Right. Time I have to make it back to the office.
Okay, shall I go with you?
Yeah, yes.
Do you mind? It's not much of a holiday.
Go away.
No, in England. No, I would stay in England because I wanna. Actually, I've never been to England, around London, England, except for London. Yeah, that's good. It's silly to be in London and don't go around.
I still haven't been to Cornwall and I've been here for 5
Yes,
years.
that's what I wanted. I wanted to go to Cornwall but it's quite far away. And
Yeah.